In this video, we're taking a look at the new TUNI G2 conical burr grinder. I reviewed the first Gen E2 and G1 about a year ago, and lately I've been testing this G2, the G3, and the new E2 as well. Their coffee gear offers a lot of value for the money, and the design feels solid. The G2 is an entry-level home grinder with a 40mm conical burr set. It's just a bit over $100, grinds by time, and gives you up to 70 grind settings. In the box, you get the grinder itself, a large hopper, a removable portafilter holder that you can swap for a magnetic catch cup, plus a couple of cleaning brushes. It's pretty similar to what I showed with the G3, but here you don't get a single dose hopper or bellows, so it can't turn into a single dose grinder like the G3. The overall look is very close to the G3. It has that lighthouse style shape with a rounded all-metal body, just a little bit smaller than the G3, and a bit larger than the G1. It matches the E2 espresso machine really nicely. On the front you get a touchscreen. You can set different grinding times for a single shot and a double shot, and the timer adjusts in 0.5 second steps. So the logic is basically the same as on the G1 and G3, and only takes a few minutes to get used to. Now let's talk about grind settings. The G2 is a stepped grinder with 70 grind positions that cover everything from espresso to pour over and on to coarser French press or cold brew. Based on the suggested ranges in the manual, I ground coffee at a few different settings so you can see the grind consistency at each brew range on screen. At around setting 60, that's the grind size I'd use for French press. For cold brew, you'd probably want to the coarsest setting. Around 40 is my usual pour-over size for lighter roasts. The grind looks pretty even. And darker roasts I'd dial it just a little bit coarser. Around 20 works well for espresso. The grounds look fluffy with a slight grainy texture. This is setting 4, which is very fine, basically dust, and it could work for something like Turkish coffee. I feel the suggested ranges on the chart are a bit on the fine side, so in real use I tend to go a few clicks coarser. It's very simple to get to the burrs and give them a quick clean. There's a sensor for the hopper, so if the hopper is off or not seated properly, the grinder won't run, which is a nice safety touch. Inside, you'll find a 40mm conical burr set. The burr design is very similar to the one in the G1 and is meant to handle a wide range of brew methods, not just espresso, but on the G2, the burr spacing does feel like it's been tweaked. On the G1, which I reviewed before, overall performance was good, but the fine range wasn't very large. On the G2, this has clearly improved. With a fresh dark roast, I ended up around setting 24, which is on the coarser side of the marked espresso range, and I was already getting a nice controlled flow. The fine range is longer, and the usable espresso window is much bigger, and for me, that's a very practical upgrade. Let's move on to retention. I'm pretty happy with how the G2 performs here. The angle of the grind chute is quite smooth, and inside there's a built-in plasma anti-static system. Combined with the lower 450 revolutions per minute grind speed, static and retention are both kept under good control. At an espresso-like grind, if I put in 18 grams of beans and grind straight through, the grounds that come out are very close to the original weight. Typical retention is around 0.1 grams, which is low enough that you don't really have to worry about it in daily use. Now for espresso performance. In real use, the G2 is very easy to work with for espresso. With medium dark and dark everyday blends, it can pull shots with thick crema, controlled bitterness, and an overall balanced profile. For milk drinks like lattes and cappuccinos, it has no trouble giving you a strong enough base. The spacing between each click is also quite reasonable. I don't know the exact micron step size, but when I move one step coarser, the shot time usually changes by around 3 to 5 seconds. For a stepped grinder, having 2 or 3 useful clicks of room to move is already pretty good. If you want very fine micro adjustments purely by grind size, the G3's 64mm flat burrs and stepless adjustment will give you more control there. I also tested it with lighter roasted beans for espresso, and it handled them with no problem. At around setting 15, I could get a well-controlled flow, and the shot had a juicy, sweet acidity that works really nicely as a refreshing iced Americano in the summer. For an entry-level grinder in this price range, the amount of thought that went into Espresso Performance is impressive. Now let's talk about pour over. For my pour over tests, I set the dial around 48. By eye, the grind looks pretty even, and when I rub it between my fingers, I can feel some fines, but not enough to choke the filter, so the flow rate stays okay. In the cup, the body is on the heavier side. Acidity doesn't really pop, but the sweetness and overall balance are nice. It doesn't taste thin or tea-like. It's more of an easy drinking, everyday cup you can keep sipping, rather than a super high clarity, layered filter profile. Overall, I still feel this grinder is mainly tuned for espresso first, with pour over as a nice bonus. To wrap things up, the G2 brings some real upgrades over the original G1. The design and build feel a bit more refined, and the fine range is clearly wider, which makes it easier to work with lighter roasts and beans that are harder to extract. At a little over $100, it's a very solid option for home use. If your main focus is stable espresso shots and you really care about having the most control, the G3 with its 64mm flat burrs and stepless adjustment will give you a more espresso-focused experience. If you have any questions about the Tuni grinders, feel free to leave a comment, and thanks for watching.